Hey guys, and welcome to another Hobby News. So this is day 6, the final day for Warhammer Fest, and just like we all thought, it is the reveal of AOS 3. So yeah, looking pretty cool. We can already see a lot of what it is right there on the tin, right? Yeah, really interesting stuff. There's a lot of stuff about this that's new and kind of, I guess, maybe different from what we all thought it would probably be. I think a lot of people thought it might be, well, we'll go into it later, but, I guess destruction. So we knew it was going to be destruction, but then, I think maybe a lot of people online were thinking more orcs. But what this person is facing doesn't look anything like orcs. So we'll go in and have a little look and go through it. But yeah, I've had a brief go through just to check it out. I want to keep this as fresh as possible, so it's only a brief look. But yeah, definitely something more unique, a different take. And I'd be very surprised if it's orcs. It doesn't look like anything like orcs, considering the new releases they've been releasing. They're not changing the vibe or style of orcs at all, so it has to be something else. Yeah, super interesting. So let's get in. So here we go past all the YouTube stuff, the video stuff there, and we'll move down to this. So we end up with this really beautiful artwork here. And what she's facing, to me, feels very much like very chaosy and very much beasts of chaos, right? So they're part of destruction and all of that, as far as I know. So, it sort of feels like possibly it's going to be beasts that these things that the new Stormcast are facing, because it does, we'll go into it further, but it does say that the Broken Realm stuff, they're kind of pushing back and sort of retaking land and stuff like that, and from the Chaos side. So it does feel like it's moving more towards something to do with that. But we'll go through it. So let's start off. So yeah, the next edition, the world's greatest fantasy tabletop miniatures game, is about to get a phenomenal update. This outstanding cover art should whet your appetite, and it does. It's really interesting, really dynamic, beautiful artwork there. We'll get into the model as we saw on that little preview. Yeah, when I saw this, I was like, oh wow, that's really cool. The model is a little different to this, and I've got my thoughts on it. It is beautiful, but there is some things that I think maybe they should have gone for with this that they didn't. But yeah, I don't know. It depends on when the production of this art was made compared to the model and what other artwork was done at the time when it was made. And obviously this has been made a long time ago. And so I can see there might be some dissonance there between this, and because when you look at this, whoa, this sort of fits in line with sort of like the newer kind of design aesthetic and elaborate centerpiece models that they're doing. But when you get to this model, it's a little bit more sedentary. It's less dynamic, which is fine. But something about the way these wings are, which are more ethereal and less real and so on, when we see the model, it's sort of a little bit counter to what this is. So I have my thoughts on how you might jazz it up a little bit to fit more with this type of vibe compared to what's there. But again, it's still a really nice model, and I like the face and everything. The sculpt on it's really, really beautiful. There's just a few elements there that don't quite suit the energy of what's going on here, what this character is. But yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself now. So let's move down and have a little read. So as well as more gorgeous artwork than you can shake and scrolled spear at, what's that? I don't know. Anyway, some word I can't pronounce. Spear at. The new Warhammer Age of Sigmar features a rule set that's been refined, revised, and retested to make your games better than ever, and a new narrative play system lets you forge your own legend of conquest, exploration, and martial might in the mortal realms. But what does the new edition mean for the ongoing story of Warhammer Age of Sigmar? Well, if you've been paying attention to the Broken Realms saga, big things have been happening recently. Without giving too much away, and then it tells you to download stuff. The Soul Wars are over. the curse of the Necroquake is broken and waves of life magic are sweeping across the realms. So that's the kind of, I guess, the outcome of what's been going on. And we have a new thing going on where they're taking back a lot of the land. And so if we come down here, yeah, we get some nice images of that. So, these sort of chaotic areas, and we've got, I guess, life magic coming in. The narrative of the new edition sees the forces of order pushing out across the mortal realms to finally reclaim land lost since the Age of Chaos, establishing outpost cities and growing Sigmar's realm step by bloody step. So we see sort of a pushback, and it looks like Gur is the place where they're going to be doing that. All across Gur in particular, the forces of destruction are rising up in droves as their newly awoken god, Kragnos, begins a rampage of epic proportions. Enter Sigmar's Huntress. So this new model is Sigmar's Huntress, basically his greater demon, right? Or his demon prince. As we all know, this is basically, Sigmar is basically a fifth chaos god. So, he's got his own little demon princes now, and they're coming out in force. So we'll move down, and we'll see what it is. So Yndrasta, I don't even know how to pronounce that. The Celestial Spear, we'll call it that, the Celestial Spear. You might have been wondering what the awesome winged warrior on the cover of the new book is all about. In the face of a desperate struggle, Sigmar has unleashed one of the very few near-mythical lords of Azir, reforged by his own hand and imbued with a measure of his power. So yeah, his demon prince. Or maybe greater demon, depending on how big she is. A beast slayer beyond compare. The Celestial Spear has been tasked with hunting down the most terrible monsters found in the mortal realms. Carried into battle upon angelic wings and wielding the legendary spear Thengava. I don't know how to pronounce that. Sorry. Her mere visage strikes terror into the enemies of Azir. Okay, so I don't know much about Azir, but obviously it's a very sort of, place of light and so on, heavenly kind of thing. And yeah, here we have the model. Now, yeah, I really love this. It's a beautiful sculpt. Everything about it's cool, except it's extremely sedentary compared to the image. There must be another image in the book where it shows her commanding her troops or something in this pose, because that front cover image is not really like this. In the image, you're seeing sort of energy wings that are coming out of her, and here we have these very real feathered wings. She feels more like a demon prince of Tzeentch. You know what I mean? If we come down here and have a look at the back, they're real wings coming from the back of her body, rather than sort of the embodiment or the symbology of wings in this energy form that's sort of bursting from her. I feel like they should have gone for lightning, feathered, like lightning fronds, make it all energy and have it sort of lightly connecting, like not completely connecting, like have a more different kind of vibe, like they're erupting out of her rather than like physical wings that are attached. And this is a problem that I see goes on a lot. Like, I don't know, it's always bothered me about Warhammer right back to the very beginning, why everything that flies has to have like real wings to fly, like as if, especially all the chaos stuff, like why they need wings it's just the symbol that they're basically like an ethereal being. They're not really real, they're just imposing themselves on reality and forming this I guess image of what they are, but that's not really what they are. And they don't they defy reality just by being. You know what I mean? They're an entity that doesn't follow the rules, and that includes gravity. So why they need to have these very realistic wings? I mean, it looks cool on the demons, the sort of warp thing, but something like this, I really feel like they're just tying themselves down to this very antiquated idea of things that fly. She doesn't even need to have any wings at all. She could just have some little electric thingies coming out of the back here, or just little fronds, and just have her floating, just like Necron stuff, right? If you look at Necron, their sort of god models, they don't have any wings. I mean, I think one of them does now, but the original two, the Nightbringer and the Deceiver, they were just floating in the air. They didn't require, and I feel like for her, that would suit this sedentary pose a lot more. And so I have a few ideas. So what you would do is, let's say for now we'll keep the wings, but one of the simplest things you could do is this base here, you chop her out of that so she's free. Then you cut this on this angle here, so that this piece of tree limb is now poking up into the air like this. Okay, if you can imagine that. So now that's cut there, so it goes up in the air. Then you cut her at the knee and bend that back, so it's a bit more of a more elegant kind of, like she's just leapt off. She's just leapt off the ground kind of thing, a bit of Superman there. So that kind of suits that pose. And then you attach her back leg just to the, you'd have to do a little bit of tricky thing where, so you'd want to not have it in the foot in this way, you'd want to have it pointing. So you just probably find another model that has a normal foot and then just fit that in the bottom, or you could cut this and green stuff it down so it's a bit more pointing. You do the same for this foot as well so that they're pointing down, and then just have her touching somewhere on this where she's then basically, so you get a nice connection, you can pin it in and so on and get a good connection, and then she's now floating in the air. And then you could remove the wings altogether if you wanted to, or at least change them. So there's another set of wings that everyone uses for Blood Angel armies, and it's that sort of, they have those like spike kind of pieces coming off, the fronds coming off them. It's not like, doesn't look like real wings. I don't know which model that's on. It's like everyone uses it for all of their Blood Angel conversions and stuff like that. But I think it is a Stormcast wing set from some older model. But there's this, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but there's that kind of thing that everyone uses in Blood Angel armies. That sort of set of wings where it's like not a real wing set, it's kind of like the symbology of wings. I think that would suit her far better than real feathered wings. I think changing that up for that type of wing idea would work really nice, and it's very angelic. It has those like big kind of pieces coming off it. That set of wings on her would, I think, really suit her if you're going to put wings. But I would just get rid of the wings altogether, have her floating, and then just green stuff up the back here, and just have her as an angelic figure that's just, because she's in a very sedentary, very sort of calm, pose. So having her just floating off, without this huge thing here, I think would really suit her better. And then the other thing I would do is cut this off, just get rid of that and expose her head. So her head is far more visually noticed in the silhouette. It doesn't get lost in this sort of back piece. I would just cut that off, just snip that right there and there, and expose her head. So her head becomes far more the focal area of this model, and remove all of this and just have that, and have a much more quiet piece where it's like a moment of calm in the storm. And I think that would feel better. And I would jazz up this base. This base is a little bit sort of not quite interesting enough for something as cool as this. I would fill it with the debt of destruction around her, maybe like she's just killed everything and now she's, floating off to do something else, or she's, it's the end of the battle, like maybe pile it with bodies all the way up to the steps. So you just have this like carnage all on the base with this very, soft, silent, peaceful pose going on with all of this carnage under her. I think that would be a really lovely conversion, and I think if I was going to do this, that's what I would do. So yeah, I feel like there's some opportunities here to muck around with this to further accentuate this calm pose versus the destruction that she's wroughting. You know what I mean? So anyway, they're just some thoughts I've got, sort of ranting on there. But yeah, hopefully you're still listening and that's interesting to look at. But I feel like there's something here that could be done. And I'm not saying that, this is certainly not a failure in terms of a model. It's really beautiful. But I feel like whenever this was sculpted, probably it wasn't in time with this particular artwork, because there's just something else going on here that just doesn't reflect the model. And it's just a different model, right? It's a different take. But you could definitely get some of that. Like if this ends up being a sculpt, this sort of spawnish stuff, then I would get whatever this sculpt is going to end up being, I would get that stuff and have it writhing underneath her, like have that built up, like this big massive writhing destruction under her, and have her just floating above it. I think that would be really, really fun and cool. But anyway, they're my thoughts on that. Let's move on to the next bit. So now so they're really pushing. Now I've got some interesting ideas on this too. So sorry, I'm a sculptor. So for me, talking about the design is kind of a thing. I'm not just coming at this from like just a enthusiast point of view. I've been a sculptor for a very long time. I have my own brand, my own sculpted models. I've worked on movies. This is my thing. So I'm also a trained teacher, art teacher, so I know about art theory and all of that stuff. And so for me, looking at these kind of aesthetics is a fun part of this. Not to say that I can do better or anything like that. It's just an objective look at aesthetics for their own sake and what's going on, and give it a bit of critique on some alternatives, because we all love conversions and we all love doing different things. So bear with me. I'm sorry, but the sculptor in me comes out and I start looking at things. So anyway, so the Reforged Stormcast Eternals. In the face of the upheaval across the mortal realms, Sigmar's warriors must adapt in their effort to establish new bastions of order in the harshest environments. Made stronger of mind and body, clad in thunderstrike armor of an ingenious design, and wielding potent blessed weapons, new reinforcements are ready to take the fight to the enemy. So here we go, we see the new design for what's coming. And from my opinion, this is a much better design than the previous, for a few reasons. One, they're trying to capture that Primaris Space Marine. We all know this is the Space Marines of fantasy, and that's what they want them to be. And that's fine. I've got no issue with that. It's also, they're learning from the Primaris thing. Whatever you think about Primaris Space Marines, they're a better, just compositionally and anatomically, they're a much better figure. And some of that has to do with the enlarged size of them, and it looks like these are getting that treatment. I don't know exactly how big the old ones are, the old Stormcast are, but this feels very much on the proportions of a Primaris, and that's a good thing. So they feel much, much nicer. They feel like Roman, gladiators, like real, imposing, the idea of what Rome was trying to get across to people in that time, that they're almost godlike in their proportions. And this very much gives you a much stronger sense of that classic proportion thing going on there, or even Greek as well. You're getting that ancient feel there. I really like it. They've got the Primaris little side pieces now. But the most important part of all this, apart from the proportional size of it and how it's feeling, is the shoulder pads. The old shoulder pads, to me, never quite hit the mark. They feel a little bit too toyish and a little bit too... They just weren't fitting what else was going on. They were kind of like against what all the other shapes are doing, and now they've changed it, so they've got this more rounded thing which is closer to they're trying to do Space Marines without doing Space Marines, right? But what I've always felt is that they want to go more towards the Sister of Battle shoulder pad, and that's exactly what they've done. You can see here it's got a bit more invoking that Sister of Battle shape, and it's a much nicer, pleasing shape. It's a bit more rounded. It doesn't point out as much. It's coming down, so the flow and the feel of this, your eye, I don't know, it's not as jarring there. It's sort of, I think this is a better shape. It's still, I don't know, it's still not quite there for me, but it might just need to be enlarged a bit, just go all in and say, okay, Space Marines, and just bring them down to here, but in this type of more rounded shape. And I think you'd hit the nail on the head. I think that would be about right. They're just still a little bit small, I think, maybe a bit bigger, that's it. And then you'd see a better feel. But this is much nicer. I like everything else that's going on. So all in all, really, really cool. So let's come down here. Due to the machinations of Be'lakor, the souls of Stormcast Eternals are no longer guaranteed to return for their reforging, but Thunderstrike armor is wrought expressively to give them the power to pierce the supernatural clouds hanging over the realms and make their way safely back to Azir. So there was this whole thing of like they can't reforge and all that, and now they've come up with their little tricky solution to fix that problem. Fair enough. They were going to do it. So let's take a look. So I like everything that's going on here. Like I've just said, I think it's really cool. I still think these shoulder pads aren't quite the final iteration of what they want. I feel like they're just possibly a little bit too small, and they need to move just a little bit more towards the unrealistic version of shoulder pads that Space Marines have, the sort of more, restrictive movement shoulder pads, but they still make them work. You know what I mean? They've got this underpiece, which is how the Space Marine ones have, just making them a little bigger, and not quite as small, I think would work a lot nicer, and you get that better feel. See that, how if they were just coming down to the bend like Space Marines do, just give it that little bit more. I think this would be perfect, and a little bit higher here, and then you'd get basically, because you may as well lean into it. everyone already knows this is this is what it is, right? They already know. You don't need to dance around the concept. Just make them that. You know what I mean? Just make them that. Just go all in. Just give that little bit extra there, and I think you'd have a more pleasing final result. I feel like that's it. See how this staunch, beautiful legs, everything. This all really feels awesome, but the shoulders just don't match this powerful frame here. Just get this out a little bit, and then you'd have it. You'd nail it. I mean, maybe the models feel more like that. I don't know. Maybe it's just the photos that don't quite match that. Because some of them kind of feel almost big enough, but then some of them don't. But there's very powerful lower half here, right? They're definitely doing leg day, right? These guys are doing their squats. They're not wimping out on squats. They're doing their 100 a day. You know what I mean? They're putting out those YouTube videos and getting that 100 squat video out every day. But this I feel like needs to just improve a little. So that's the only thing. I love that they got some other ethnic races involved here, not just your Caucasian, Anglo white kind of person head. You've got some other variants here, so we can be more inclusive and have a few more races involved in this. That's something that I think is really, really awesome, and I'm glad to see it, because I like painting different skin tones and different types. And when you're stuck with a lot in Space Marines, you got this Anglo head that's clearly, very white kind of person. Painting them in darker skin tones kind of looks really weird. It doesn't quite have the anatomy that you want to see for that darker skin tone. And here we have something where they've actually tried to do, a bit more correct anatomy for that skin tone. And also the hair is more in line, so you get a real feeling of this racial type, which is great. I think I haven't actually seen that in any of these models yet, so that's probably the best sculpt that I've seen, at least, and not too stereotypical. It kind of feels pretty natural. So I like this. More of this is really nice. I'd like to see maybe some, there's all kinds of other races you could put in right there. He's grabbing these from, I guess, the remnants of the old world. We could see all kinds of maybe some Cathay stuff in there, from, people that were from that part of the world, or Araby, or wherever, the other races that exist in the old world, and have their ethnic, sensibilities showing through. That would be really beautiful. I don't know if they've got any more of those, but I'd love to see that, to give these sort of very generic kind of, like, where everyone's the same, you get a chance to put some interest, in the face, and maybe a few little adornments and so on, so you get a sense of the character that's coming through here, that this is a different person underneath than maybe the next one. They're not all faceless. Just for those that want to do faces, you don't have to, you just put the helmet on, but it's an option, right? So let's take a look. Yeah, and we got all that. So we got like 3 different poses. I like this. Yeah. So overall, I really like the overall feeling that's going on here. It's great. So we'll move on before I rant forever. So the Vindicators. Yeah, Vindicators hold the line of the Thunderstrike hosts, equipped with storm spears and heavy shields. Each one is the equal of many mortal warriors. Okay, that's a bit of a weird statement, but anyway, all good. They're basically Terminators. We're getting into the Terminator side of the Space Marine range here. Annihilators are a new generation of Paladin. They're built like a granite column and protected by the heaviest armor we've seen on Stormcast Eternals. Not only does it grant them a 2+ save, yep, Terminators, they hit like raging bulls with all the momentum their bulk generates on the charge. Yep, so they're Terminators with Thunderhammer Storm Shield. So they're going all in. But see this, just drop this down here a bit more. You know what I mean? Just go all in. You don't have to, just make them Space Marines. You may as well. We'd all be fine with it. No one's going to care. And they just do that. Just drop that down there. But yeah, it's a cool thing. I'd like to see hopefully some more animated poses for these guys. But this obviously is maybe the unit champion or something like that. But yeah, pretty cool. Nice look. I still think the shoulder pads aren't quite there. It's the only part of the whole design that doesn't quite fit, but apart from that, everything is good. Now, just what sort of threat would such advanced Stormcast Eternals be preparing to take on? And then we see a little clip here of what it is. Doesn't really show you anything, but it's just talking about like what it might be coming out of Gur, I think it is. So something in the swamps or something weird and crazy coming out of, the bogs and the mires that exist there. And so we come down to a final image of these heavier built warriors. So yeah, I like it. I still think the shoulder pads could be a little bigger. You may as well see how it just feels a bit short at the top and very bulky down the bottom. There's not enough balance here. And I think that's the thing that Space Marines have, is this, the lower half and the top half are well balanced. And I think that's what makes Space Marine design work, especially on those new Primaris. You have equal balance of heavy to heavy, and I think that's what's missing out of these. This feels a bit more like a triangle, and it should be more like a square, like a rectangle, right? So you get that nice heavy top and heavy bottom, and with the slender waist. So you're getting your inverted triangle, okay, which is the classic thing for male muscularity. That's the classic proportion, and then building out to very powerful legs. And if you look at any bodybuilding or anything like that, that's if you look at old Arnie, any old classic photos of him, that's what you're going for. So yeah, I think that's all pretty cool. Hopefully that this image, so we'll end it on this old image up here. And what I'm hoping is that we're going to see, rather than Orcs in the Box for the starter box set, hopefully it'll be Beasts of Chaos, or whatever the new version of Beasts of Chaos is going to be, because that's basically what this to me looks like. So I'm assuming it's going to be something along those lines, and that it will be a sort of Stormcast versus Beast. I'm hoping, because then I'll definitely buy it. I love Orcs, but it's not my main thing. I'd prefer to do something that's more aligned with Chaos, and this kind of looks like it is, at least in some way. It might be a new reimagining, like with the Soulblight Gravelords compared to Legions of Agash, like a new version of what maybe that replaces Beasts of Chaos or something like that, some new destruction thing that has this kind of thing, because I like everything that's going on here. This all looks great. If these are models or anything close to models, this will be so much fun to paint. So that I'm hoping for something like that, but we'll wait and see. So yeah, if you've liked this, please subscribe, hit that notify button. I'll stop my ranting now and leave you with this, and let's hope it's all really good. Hopefully it's coming in the next couple of months, I would imagine, probably within 2 months, and hopefully the new box set is as generous as the Indominus one for 40k, and we get a good bunch of models, and that it doesn't sell out, and we all get a chance to have access to it, right? So yeah, have a great day. I hope you've liked this. I hope this is getting you pumped for AOS 3, and I guess I'll catch you on the next one.